everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I thought today we could just do like a little knit and chat. Um, I'm just working on my Holly Jolly test knit sweater. Um, that's I need to finish before October because that's when I need to finish it. Uh, so far so good. But I thought we could have just a little discussion, a little chat. We can just vibe in the comments. Maybe this might not be the best project for this because I'm doing a color work chart, but we'll find out. I thought we could talk a little bit about like hobbies, I guess, because this is my hobby. Like knitting's my hobby, not YouTube. Like YouTube is a hobby, I guess. I don't know. But like your hobbies, monetizing your hobbies, and then a little bit about like when to know when you want to stop. Because as someone who's been knitting for 10 years now, I learned in middle school. Yeah, I learned in middle school. It makes me feel old. I'm not even that old, and it makes me feel a little old to say that I learned how to knit in middle school. And so I've been knitting for pretty close to a decade at this point. I've been crocheting for almost a decade at this point. Like I have always been, a little crafty. And so it was always something I just did for fun. It wasn't something that I intended to ever make money out of. It was something I did because I liked it, and I liked, being able to be like, oh, look at this thing I made. It's so cute. Most of the times it was just scarves. I don't know why I was so into knitting scarves all the time. But it's always been something I did for fun. Something, just like just a chill thing to do. And so I think we need to have that discussion, especially because there's been a lot of people coming in, and I'm really happy that a lot of people have picked up knitting and crocheting recently, and I think that's good and should be encouraged because everyone should be able to have whatever kind of hobby or craft they want. I just don't want anyone to feel pressured to monetize that hobby. So just because you have a hobby, and this has always been a thing with crafting, just because you have a hobby doesn't mean you have to monetize that hobby. I know it feels like you should, but it's okay to do something and not feel forced to sell it. And that's something I struggled with a lot, especially when I got into high school and I wanted, spending money. I thought, well, what if I sold things? But I want you to realize that you don't have to be productive all the time, which is something I think a lot of people struggle with, especially because, society says you should have a side hustle and you should have other things going on, and that's not, you don't, if you want to monetize it, I say go ahead, but I want you to take a look at yourself, and I want you to think about it and be like, if I did this for, say you want to make it your job one day to be a content creator and make, whatever kind of hobby videos for a job. I want you to look at yourself and be like, would I still be happy if I did it? Because you shouldn't, it's a thing when you make your hobby your job that you would eventually one day maybe suck all the fun and the joy you ever got out of your hobby, and then it's just you're in the same place you didn't want to be. So this is just me trying to be like, hey guys, I know I'm making content about my hobby, and yes, that is kind of in the end I might end up hating my hobby, hating the thing I have enjoyed for so long. But I think at one point I had done it for so long and I knew that I would continue to enjoy it, that it just felt normal to want to share that, because I love talking about it. I love sharing what I've made and sharing new things that I found and all of these sorts of things. So it made sense to share it. And if you want to share it, I don't want to stop you. I don't want to stop you. You should be able to share, make content, run a successful Instagram account if you want. I just also want you to know it's okay to not create. I'm being very bad at knitting. I'm sorry. But it is okay to just not. It's totally fine if you want to just be like, yes, sometimes I post on Instagram, but don't feel compelled to, once you learn how to knit or crochet or cross stitch or, you know, make paper craft things. I don't know. Sometimes I like to watch people make miniatures on YouTube, but like, don't feel compelled if you pick up a hobby or learn how to, like, if you learn how to make soaps or cheeses or like whatever fun little thing you decide to do in your free time. Don't feel like you have to monetize it. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't feel like you have to. Don't feel like you're wasting your time if you just decide that you're gonna like just knit for yourself. Like, that's not something to be ashamed of or something you feel like you shouldn't do. You should have fun and you should enjoy it because it's your time, and this is time that you have for yourself. Like, I like knitting. I like being able to show off things that I've made. I like crochet. I like to, you know, make things for myself. And so I spent, you know, that time in between. I spent most of middle school, not all of it. I learned to knit in like the middle of middle school. So I learned how to knit when I was in middle school, and I spent all of high school doing it basically just for myself and for maybe some of my friends. They weren't very good projects. They definitely weren't like great. I would not call them star material, but they were things that I did for myself because I wanted to do them. I found the patterns and I bought the yarn, and I'm not particularly proud of most of them now. Like, I look at them and I'm like, that kind of sucks. But when I made them, I was happy with them. When I made them, they were things I wanted to make, so it makes sense. Like, I don't need to sell them. I don't need to post about them on YouTube. Like, yes, I do now, but like, I have reached a point where I want to talk about them more. Like, before it was mostly I just wanted to share. I wanted to make them for myself, and maybe I'll post them on my Instagram if I feel like it. But it wasn't like I have to make a separate Instagram account and I have to, you know, start an Etsy store and I have to sell my patterns. I worked up and I fought a lot with myself to decide if this was something I actually wanted to do. Like, if this was something I genuinely thought I could do for fun. And then I would release them, make my little patterns, and then like, and give them to other people to enjoy and have other people, you know, find things that they like and be able to have that experience. It was more of like, I have reached a point now where I feel I am ready to share my, you know, nearly 10 years of knitting experience with other people, and that's something fun. That's something I, you know, as I've gotten older, I have realized I like to do, but I started out not wanting to share it, not wanting to talk about it. I did it a lot. I would carry knitting with me everywhere. I packed a project with me every day to school. Every day in high school, I would be, you know, in the lunchroom knitting away. I was the only one, but I did it. They all knew I did it. It was just something I did for myself. I made my hats. I made hats. They were not good. They were definitely very bad. I am haunted by one hat I made. I found this like beginner knitting book that I had from a long time ago. And I decided I wanted to make one of them for my little brother. And it said to cast on 106 stitches. And I did it, but I was using a worsted weight, like a 4 acrylic yarn. The thing didn't even fit my adult man father's head. So like there are projects I have that I'm like, yeah, that project sucks, but I've made it, so I'm like, yeah, it sucks, but I did that. And so that's something like you can have, just that sense of like pride in your hobby. um this is going to be really rambly, I'm realizing now. I'm very sorry. But it's just with the explosion of crochet that I've seen on TikTok. And that might just be because I really like that content. I like seeing what you guys make and like seeing what I find on, TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest and stuff. Like, it's the creativity is amazing. Like, I honestly love it. Like, I have consumed that content a lot more than I've created it. So part of it is like I like it. I like seeing what you guys make. Um it's just when they feel the need to, like, you know, they feel forced to sell it, or, partake in craft stores, the ever growing, always present snark of, well, you could sell it. And you're like, this would cost a lot more than anyone's willing to pay. Like, I just, I want new crafters to realize that maybe they don't have to share it if they don't want to. They don't have to do it. I mean, it's something for you. This is your hobby. You should enjoy it. I know that's not groundbreaking. It's not something wild and crazy. It's just like, I have a hobby and I'm gonna do it. Whether or not people pay me for it or not. I've gotten off track. I'm sorry. the the main thing I want you guys to take away from this is, like, if you pick up knitting or crochet, don't feel pressured into, selling at craft fairs or selling to people. Don't feel pressured into creating content around it just because you do it. Give yourself time to just figure out what you like, what you want to make. Especially, like, if you try something and you're like, I don't really like making these. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to make it. And I know that's, like, a no-brainer moment. So, like, don't listen to me if you don't want to. That's also an option. You could just click off. If you've made it this far, thank you. But yeah, so you guys, you don't have to make things you don't like to make. I know for the first, like, 5 or so years, all I ever really made was scarves, hats, and then, like, blankets. Don't ask me why. I just liked them. They were easy. They were simple. I would occasionally, like, try a new stitch. I would occasionally, do something different. But I mostly made hats and scarves for years. Like, that's all I wanted to make. That's all I cared about. That's, like, all I would wear was just hats and scarves. No rhyme or reason. And then one day I decided, no, I think I'm gonna make a shirt. Or I'm gonna, test knit a sweater. I'm gonna knit sweaters now. That's what I want. But I didn't start those things until college. Like, I was solely like, I will craft hats, scarves, and afghans, and that's all I want to make, because those were the only things I enjoyed making. They were, like, my projects, my go-tos. So don't feel bad if all you want to make is hats and scarves, or those toys, or the toys that everyone's crocheting. I personally don't like making them, so I don't make them. But that's my personal preference. It's up to you guys what you like. You shouldn't feel like you have to make useful things if you don't want to make useful things. That sounds really stupid. This is terrible. This is not really terrible advice, but it sounds dumb now that I say it out loud. But I guess the big thing I want to talk about too is the, like, pressure to monetize your hobbies, especially if you're good at them. Don't feel pressured. Don't pressure other people to sell. I know that, like, to monetize them, especially in the, like, the world of craft fairs and all that kind of stuff, like, you don't have to do, like, I know that sounds really obvious, but like, if you're debating, you know, going to craft fairs, or picking up like a fiber art just to do that, maybe reconsider. maybe reconsider, because if you don't, I don't want to like stop you from learning how to knit or crochet, but I want you to think about why you're wanting to learn this, why, what your like motivations are. Is it money? Are you learning how to craft for money? Because I'm gonna tell you now, it's not financially lucrative to craft for money. It is most certainly not, my dude. If you were to buy really nice yarns, you would have to sell your projects at like such a high cost. No one's gonna want to pay that. So you're gonna have to like cut corners somewhere, whether it's paying yourself or paying for your supplies. And it's not worth it to go in it for money. You need to go in it for like personal fulfillment for the most part. That's why I went in. That's why I always want people to go for, is I want them to be happy with the stuff that they've made and feel that sense of like pride of like, I made this was something I did. But I also want you to like think like, is the stress of going to a craft fair worth it to you? Because it might not be. It might not be. You don't have to monetize everything you do. You don't have to always be productive, is another thing that I feel like a lot of people are missing, is because especially with work from home and like COVID and everyone staying home, everyone felt like it was time to start side hustling to the max. If that makes any sense, at least for me. But I am like a young adult. Like I went to work, I did work, I, you know, live on my own, I pay my rent and stuff. And so maybe it's different if you're like a teenager and you're in high school and you just want to make some extra money. Like, go ahead, go to the farmer's market, set up a little booth. It's low stakes enough, right? If you want to, like, try it out, see if that's something. Like, if you really, like, if you're thinking about it and you're like, I really want to try a booth at a farmer's market, go ahead. Like, why not try it? Give yourself that opportunity to test it and see if you like it before you like automatically decide you're not going to do it. But at the same time, like, if you're sitting on the fence and you don't feel ready, like, you don't have to do it. It took me nearly a decade to get to the point where I felt ready to like share anything I've made, really, any sort of patterns I write. I took me nearly a decade to start this channel. So I think part of it is you need to be honest with yourself in what you went into this hobby for and what you want out of it. Because for a while, for me, it was like, I just want to share what I'm doing, and at the same time it still is. I still want to, you know, have that personal enjoyment of, I made this for myself, I made this for my partner, I made this for my family. Like, this is something I made that I know people will understand the value of, because I come from a family that makes things by hand. Like, part of it is like, what do I want from this hobby that I have, whether it be that knitting, crocheting, painting miniatures, woodworking. What do I want from this hobby, and what would get me to that end? Because you don't have to, you know, share everything online. And I know that's like very obvious, and you've probably gotten that a lot, and that, you know, you should have things you do solely for you. And so if you know, make things and you've decided that you don't care if you sell things, that's up to you. That's your own thing. I don't know. Part of this was spurred on because I've been looking into making a little more money than I make now, because money is nice. Like, people like money. But I see a lot of like YouTube videos that are like, how I made this much money on Etsy, or how I made a 6-figure business. And I I would having 6 figures in a year make my life better? Yeah, probably. Do I necessarily want that much money? No. It's just that's a headache waiting to happen, especially because if you're self-employed, like your taxes and stuff, and like I don't know, I think way too much about my taxes. I get so stressed out about taxes, like gross. I don't know, but I don't know. Part of it is just I see these things and I can understand how people could be, persuaded to start these things. And yeah, it's a lot of work to monetize your hobby, and yeah, you have to like make a fan base, and you have to make products and stuff, and like you can get enjoyment out of it. Like I get enjoyment making videos, and I get enjoyment, making projects and finishing them and getting to see the things other people have made with my patterns and stuff. And so I can understand the like drive, the feeling of, well, I'm already making it, I might as well monetize it. But at the same time, there's something kind of nice about not monetizing things. Or not monetizing everything, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't think it does. Maybe it does. If it does, you can tell me. If it doesn't, you can tell me. Tell me either way. I don't know. Like, I don't think I'm making any sense, honestly, and I'm very sorry. I think I'm gonna end it here, because if I keep talking, I'm gonna talk myself in circles, and that doesn't help either of us. So, if you get one thing out of this video, I want you to take away with the fact that you don't have to monetize your hobbies if you don't want to, and that you should be honest with yourself about why you want to monetize your hobbies. Is it because everyone else is doing it? Is it because you feel like you have to, because you're feeling pressure to be productive all the time? Because let me tell you, being productive all the time sucks. It's awful. I've been productive all the time, and it's not fun. It leaves you no time to do things that actually make you happy and like bring you legitimate joy. Like I felt happy, doing all the things I did in college, but I felt more happy when I was, hanging out with my friends, playing our little sports that we used to play, or like knitting. Like I felt better about what I did when I was doing those things. Like, yes, if I, worked at my school paper and I like did my little journalism for the day, and then I, tabled at an event for a radio station I was at, or I did a bunch of other things and like went to class and like did all my schoolwork, I felt good. But it felt nice when I had time to like go to Quidditch practice and then got to go home and like hang out with my friends and like do that. It felt better. Like you're allowed to do things and not think about money all the time. And that's something, like, how you make your money is up to you. And I was always told growing up, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that is true. But you should always keep one thing for yourself that you don't monetize, that you don't necessarily have, like, monetary stakes in. Especially when you're young. Like you should have things that you do solely for you. And maybe if you're really dedicated and you want to have, maybe you have specific projects or a specific type of project that you just like keep for yourself, that you only do for yourself. You don't monetize it. You don't, you can post about it, you can like make things, but don't feel obligated to do it, is what I'm saying. Don't feel like you have to. And, have fun. And if you're not having fun when you're doing it, then just stop. You don't owe anyone really explanations. Like, finish up if you're making little plushies and you've decided that these don't bring you any joy anymore, maybe stop taking orders for them and just stop. Be like, hey guys, this isn't it anymore. Like I'm tired and I'm gonna take a break. And like, you know, people who really understand will get it, and they'll be like, yeah, that makes sense, go take a break, like do something else. So yeah, that's my advice as a, you know, young adult screaming into the void. don't don't feel pressured to do or make things that you don't necessarily want to do, and that's something it took me a long time to realize. So I hope you guys have a good week, and I hope you guys have all the fun time. I hope your yarn that you want goes on sale, and I hope that you guys finish up whatever pattern or project you're working on. So I will see you guys in the next one. I think next week we're going we're gonna go thrifting. We're gonna do a thrifting video next week. Little teaser, little teaser. Next week we're going to a pretty big antique store in my capital city. So I will see you guys in that one, and have a good week.